Welcome back, everyone. You can really feel the excitement building for the Eurovision Song Contest in Switzerland, can't you? The anticipation is just palpable.
Absolutely. It really is ramping up.
But, amidst all that buzz, we're hearing some news about our German participants, Ebor and Tenna, and it sounds like their prep is proving to be, well, a bit bumpy.
That's putting it mildly. You can almost feel the tension, I think. Especially for German fans, the situation feels quite delicate right now. After Stefan Raab's pretty confident comeback announcement, it feels like more than just points are at stake.
Yeah, there's that national prestige element, too.
Exactly.
And that's precisely what we want to unpack today. What's actually going on? Can Ebor and Tenna overcome these initial hurdles and really give Germany a fighting chance? And what's the bigger picture for ESC 2025 looking like? Our goal is just to give you a clear overview without getting bogged down in every single detail. And quick reminder for your calendars. The semifinals are May 13th and 15th, with the big final on May 17th.
Yeah, a good overview is definitely needed right now. So let's start with Ebor and Tenna. There have been some worrying reports about their recent appearances.
That's right. First, there was the Amsterdam gig, with talk of playback being used.
Right.
And then, of course, Tenna's vocal issues. These recurring colds really seem to be affecting her. They even had to cancel the London performance.
Which is concerning, especially when you remember her voice wasn't quite at full strength during the German pre-selection final back in March either. She blamed a cold then, too.
Yeah, I remember that.
So naturally, the question arises, will she genuinely be in top form for the final in Basel? It's a big question mark.
On the other hand, we should mention their song Baller seems to be going down well with audiences. The applause is described as well-meaning. And that unusual combination of Tenna's singing while her brother Ebor plays the cello that does stand out, doesn't it? Why do you think that resonates?
I think the originality is definitely a key factor there. That specific mix, singing and cello, it's quite distinctive in the current ESC lineup. It could also be, the emotional depth of the song itself. Maybe that connects regardless of the performance polish.
Possibly.
But like you said, well-meaning applause alone probably won't cut it against really strong international competition. Come the final, the performance needs to be absolutely spot on, and crucially, Tenna's voice has to be reliable.
Absolutely essential. And then, looming in the background, there's Stefan Raab.
Yes.
His stated goal after his comeback is an ESC win for Germany. He's basically made it his top priority. That obviously ramps up the expectations enormously. How do you think that kind of public pressure affects the artists?
Well, I think pressure on that scale can be a double-edged sword, really. On one hand, sure, it could be extra motivation for Ebor and Tenna to push harder.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's always the risk. It just increases nervousness, maybe amplifies any existing uncertainties. And then you look at the current betting odds.
Yeah. Where are they sitting?
Well, they're currently placing them sort of in the lower middle pack, somewhere between 19th and 22nd out of the original 37 participants, which creates quite a bit of tension when compared to Raab's ambitious goal.
Although we have learned that betting odds aren't always the final word, haven't we? Just think back to last year with Isaac.
Good point.
He was pretty low on the odds, but ended up finishing a very respectable 12th. So what's your take? Are odds even a reliable indicator at this stage?
That's a really important caveat. Betting odds, well, they reflect the current mood and the bookmakers' assessments, but surprises are just part of the Eurovision fabric. Often factors come into play that the odds just can't fully capture, like the live performance itself or the voting dynamics on the night.
Sure.
Still, the current placings do suggest that, Ebor and Tenna have quite a bit of convincing to do if they want to climb higher up that leaderboard.
And it's not just concerns about Tenna's voice, is it? There's also talk about the stage presentation. Apparently, based on the pre-concerts, it's not considered optimal yet. What actually makes for a good stage presentation at Eurovision?
Oh, an effective ESC stage presentation is, it's a real mix of things. You've got the set design itself, obviously, the lighting, the camera work, and crucially, how the artists perform within that space. It's all about visually supporting the song, telling a story that connects emotionally with the audience.
So it's more than just fancy lights.
Definitely. So if the initial impressions weren't great for Ebor and Tenna's staging, it's actually good news that there are plans to revise it in the, 4 weeks remaining? The visual aspect can make a massive difference.
Okay, let's shift focus then. What about the competition? Who are the current frontrunners, according to the bookies, and what makes them stand out?
Right now, the betting agencies seem keenest on KJ from Finland, who's actually representing Sweden with the song Bara Bara Bastu.
Bara Bara Bastu.
Yeah, it translates roughly to just bathe sauna. It's described as a sort of humorous entry, a Klamoklied or comedy song praising Finnish sauna culture.
Interesting. A comedy song leading the odds.
Following KAJ are JJ from Austria with Wasted Love and Luane from France with Maman. Those three seem to have the most momentum right now, according to the betting markets.
A comedy song, a ballad,
Mm.
shows the range, doesn't it? What about alternative predictions, like The Model, which correctly predicted last year's winner? Do they offer a different view?
Yes. Interestingly, the model currently has France in first place,
Okay.
followed by Austria and then the Netherlands. So it's fascinating to see that slight difference compared to the pure betting odds. And the Netherlands, of course, are participating again despite the controversy and disqualification last year. That's notable in itself.
Yeah, that is noteworthy. And speaking of last year, the Malmo contest was heavily overshadowed by political tensions, wasn't it? Especially around the situation in Gaza and the protests against Israel's participant. Are there any signs that similar political charges might surface this year?
So far, the indications suggest we probably won't see political protests on quite the same massive scale as last year. However, this year's Israeli participant, Yuval Raphael, has a very personal connection. He actually survived the Hamas attack on October 7th.
Oh,
He's mentioned that he anticipates possible booing, but is determined to remain strong. So it shows that even if it's less overt than last year, the political context can, and likely will, still play a role somehow.
right. It's always there beneath the surface to some extent. Okay, back to the artist's direct preparations. The Eurovision in concert pre-party in Amsterdam happened recently. Most of the acts performed there, including Bor and Tina, right?
That's correct. 30 out of the 37 acts performed for about 5,000 fans. It's always a really key barometer, a sort of mood test.
So what could we glean from that event? Who seemed to impress? And who perhaps still has some work to do before the final in Basel?
Well, it's a great chance for artists to get more stage time and that first bit of real-time audience feedback. The central question coming out of it is always, who really nailed the live performance and who, maybe needs to refine their act to truly convince people in Basel? It gives us clues.
And the ESC update, I think that highlighted some other interesting storylines too, like Denmark's long wait to qualify for the final. Any other notable developments bubbling up?
Absolutely. Denmark hasn't made it to the final since 2019, which is quite a drought for them. So there's a lot of focus on whether Sissel from the Faroe Islands, representing Denmark this year, can break that streak. And then, of course, there are questions about the prospects for Iceland, Lithuania, the Czech Republic, Serbia, Cyprus, and also the host country, Switzerland, with Zoe May. It's often surprising that the home advantage for the host isn't always as strong as you might expect.
Yeah, you'd think it would count for more. Okay, so let's try and summarize the main takeaways then. For Germany and Abor and Tina, there are still several challenges ahead on the road to the ESC final in Switzerland.
Definitely.
Tina's health, her vocal reliability, and the need to optimize that stage presentation seem like the most critical factors right now.
I'd agree with that assessment. And looking at the competition, the current favorites, according to the bookies, are KAJ for Sweden, JJ from Austria, and Luane from France. Whereas that alternative model puts France first, then Austria, then the Netherlands. It's still shaping up to be a really competitive field.
Absolutely, it keeps you guessing. Which brings us to the big question, really. What do you think ultimately makes the difference for winning Eurovision? Is it purely the song's quality or the power of the performance, maybe that spectacular staging? Or is it just some, I don't know, unpredictable mix of everything?
The eternal Eurovision mystery. It's probably a really complex interplay of all those things you mentioned, plus, maybe a sprinkle of luck capturing the mood of the moment, the zeitgeist. It's going to be fascinating to see which combination of those elements proves decisive this year.